Mark Campbell from Symmetrical Drumming in Canberra with some insights into bass drum pedals, from the names of the components all the way through to some custom mods that I make to my pretty standard pedals to incorporate some features that you may only find in the very expensive pedals. That's today's drum how-to. Going into the component lists, the names for the parts, so that we're on the same page as far as what each part of the bass drum pedal is called. But before I do, a quick reminder to like, subscribe, comment and share. It really helps the YouTube algorithm to help people find me. So go the extra mile, press that like, subscribe, comment, share button and add your weight to the YouTube algorithm so that I can be found just that little bit easier. Component list, left to right, top to bottom, the dual-faced beater, the beater height adjustment, which is inside and part of the drive cam. The drive cam is on the hexagonal axle, which is supported by the two main bearings in the chassis or the frame. The spring cam is on the end of the axle and it drives the spring via the spigot and shackle and the spring eye. There are two spring eyes and they both wear out rapidly, so they have to be kept clean and lubricated with thick viscous oil, not the lighter spray-on. Moving along to the drive chain, the pedal board, the hoop clamp, the heel plate and the pedal hinge. That pedal hinge is an area that's down in the grit and the abrasive, and it's grinding away every time you make a beat, twice in fact. And if it's full of fine-grained abrasive, it will wear out rapidly. So that needs to be cleaned very regularly. Daily would be ideal, but at least once a week with a toothbrush, a vacuum cleaner or compressed air, and then lubricated with 90 weight oil. That's thick viscous oil. I recommend automotive gear oil because it's made for metal to metal contact under pressure, and that's exactly what we're talking about with a bass drum pedal, particularly over time. Bass drum pedals do a lot of work and there are a lot of watts, lots of energy going through those components into the bass drum head and into the bass drum spring. Now, some adjustments. The beater height is there to allow you to hit your bass drum in the exact position you want to get the sound that you're after. My preference is to excite mode 1, which is the middle of the drum, plus mode 2, which is slightly above the middle. That gives, to my ear, the thickest sound. Dead in the middle gives a kind of thump with attack and a very short decay and sustain. Whereas if you move your beater up, you start to excite the next mode, which gives more thump to the ear, even if it potentially is a higher frequency. It sounds bigger. The beater return angle and the beater face are adjustable. The face you can turn from a hard plastic impact sound to a much softer felt. I prefer the felt. It has a little bit more rebound and a slightly less abrupt attack because I'm not after click. I do like the sound of a lone bass drum with a click, but it's very, very rare in music to play the bass drum without any other sounds. So that click that the hard face provides is coming usually when I'm playing from other areas. My hands, maybe a rim shot or the hi-hat, or depending how I play the toms, there'll be clicks involved. So I don't need to provide the click with the beater itself. And that gives a little more space. The sounds fit together if you don't have two clicks competing for the same position. And let's face it, very rarely will they ever be perfectly in time. So you're getting little click flams all the time, unless you're El Stefano Siberiano. I got that wrong, but you know who I mean. All right, we have the beater angle adjusted by moving the home position of the return spring with the spring cam grub screw or lock bolt. And that adjusts the amount of return that the beater has and drastically alters the ballistics and the dynamic feel of your pedal. I find the beater throw that I'm after, the beater return angle, is greater than a standard pedal can provide. So I have to do some modification to the active length of the spring, which we will get into. Sprung weight, another important consideration, is all the components that move on a bass drum are supported by the spring. There's quite a number there, and they add up to more than 1 kilogram. And that's 1 kilogram for every beat. 120 crotchets per minute, 4 on the floor. You've moved in one way or another, lots of different momentums and inertia, but your leg has moved over a kilo of metal 120 times in a minute. So I use that 120 kilos per minute as a good case for doing even a little bit of weight reduction on your sprung weight, because at the end of a gig you've moved thousands of kilos. So a couple of grams times 1,000 makes a difference. And with bass drums, we're in the land of exponential curves, and thresholds and tipping points. So a few grams or just a few millimeters or a few degrees can make a big difference. Spring tension, where we get into those curves, we have the exponential curve of the drive cam working in partial opposition to the exponential curve of the spring cam. And they work opposite, so that you get a kind of flatter spring pressure on your pedal. It's not quite flat, and it's not flat enough for the way I prefer to play. Active distance is how you fix that, your spring active distance. And because we are in the land of exponential curves, a slight increase, a slight adjustment, a tweak of an angle can make a big difference to the feel, the speed, and the efficiency of your pedal. So sprung weight and spring tension, when tweaked to suit you, have a dramatic effect on the efficiency of the pedal. But we're looking at, in round figures, about 4 kilos per beat. There's lots of gravity assist with your leg and your technique, and all of the components have their own curves and inertia and momentum. But as an image to keep in mind, that 4 kilos is moving every time you hit the drum. Thousands of times a night, thousands of kilos. And that has an impact on your muscles. When you get up to the 1,000 rep mark, your tibialis anterior might be on fire. That's your shin muscle. I also find if I'm not set up on a pedal, maybe an unfamiliar kit, I'll find I'm trying to open my angle of my ankle by sitting back and by raising my leg to play heel up so that I can give my shin a rest. That makes my thigh muscle burn because I like a light spring weight. So I have to carry my leg with my thigh muscles rather than with a tight, tense spring and a heavy pedal board. So sitting back also means I transfer what was a strain on my shin to a strain on my shoulders. So I have another solution, which is in amongst these custom modifications. Weight reduction is the first. Open ankle mods is the second modification, and beta throw is the third, if you group them together. But what have we got there? 7 tweaks. Let's have a look at weight. Shoes. The heaviest part of the pedal is your shoe. In most cases, you may have light, rubbery or slippery drum shoes of some description, but they are not in any way superior to playing barefooted. Aside from the weight reduction, the feel and the tactile connection, I find that is really a great way to ramp up your touch, texture and articulation. Big difference. So, barefooted, big weight reduction, and I find I play to the tips of my toes, which is kind of how you're playing when you're using sticks, or you're using the tips of your fingers when you're playing a djembe or a conga, and even a bowron. Your fingers are important. Your toes, I find, equally as important in fine-grained articulation. Socket head grub screws. Did you get that? Socket head grub screws are lighter than the standard issue raised head, square head lock bolts or grub screws that come standard. Only a few grams, but remember, this is the land of exponential, all these tongue twisters, exponential curves, and a few grams makes a difference. The last one is a belt drive. Belts are nowadays equally as durable as chains, and they're a little bit quieter and they're lighter. If Harley Davidson drive their motorcycles down the road using belts, then drummers can use them to drive their pedal. Open ankle adjustments include lengthening the chain just by 20 to 30 mil, or the belt. I find I use custom belts. On my Yamaha pedals, I use an old air conditioning belt off my car. Fits perfectly. And no stretch, and very durable. Great stuff. The commercially available options are limited if you want to lengthen your drive chain or your pedal. The chain I'm working with on the pedals at the moment is a number 35 chain. So on eBay, it's just a matter of ordering some extra chain and the joiner link for that. So that part of the pedal is standard, but if you try to get a name brand extended drive chain, it will be difficult. So you have to kind of think outside the drum store box for my mods. Hoop clamp grub screw, I got that one out. A shorter grub screw without the T head on it, the wing bolt head, is what I use. Get rid of that. That protrudes 20 mil, roughly, above your hoop clamp, so that your pedal board, when you lengthen your chain or your belt, potentially is going to tap on the top of that. So change that to a grub screw which does not protrude, and your beaters automatically, your pedal board automatically has more travel. The last one is the heel block raiser, to raise the heel block. So my heel comes up, my ankle opens. Pedal board comes down, my ankle opens. The heel block riser on my pedals that I'm working on is about 40, 50 mil, which is more than commercially available units, I think. Makes a difference, but it does mean that I have to make my kick drum on the spikes and the legs at the front, where the drum is positioned. I have to drop the drum to the floor so the drum is flat and square to the ground. I, in times past, used to raise my drum about 50 mil, and that would bring the drum head into the right position for the beater to sync up with that exponential ramp at the end of the travel. So that was the adjustment, the kick drum angle. Now my kick drum is flat, and I adjust the angle with the height of the heel plate. So I've traded tilt on my kick drum for tilt on the back of my pedal, and that allows me to open my ankle and have the same interplay between the beater and the head, with the pedal doing the angle adjustment rather than the spikes and the legs. Useful stuff to know. Beater throw, this is where we get into the unusual term of active spring length. Conventional pedals have about, what have we got, 7 centimeters, 70 mil, maybe 80 with the shackle and the spring. But the spring adjuster is the anchor point, and that determines how that spring responds. I replace that spring adjuster with a turnbuckle so that the adjuster is now part of the path, the spring active length. The adjuster is part of that curve now. And that, through geometry, changes ever so slightly how quickly the exponential ramp up of the spring cam. It makes it a little bit later, and it isn't quite as aggressive, much more accommodating for my style of playing. Active spring length, definitely worth doing, but it does require a new anchor point for your spring, which can be done, which I will show you after a quick summing up. Understanding and a little bit of insight into how dynamic, how exponential, and how geometric the pedal operation is really helps. You don't have to be Einstein or Hawking, but grasping that idea that pedals are in the land of exponential curves, and tweaking that curve where it peaks to where in relationship to where your beta hits the head is the essence of speed and efficiency, so that you're not wasting energy unnecessarily into your spring or setting your spring up to try to compensate for an incorrect exponential curve and impact. So that understanding allows you to maintain and adjust. Remember, maintenance is about cleaning those high friction surfaces and lubricating with viscous oil, not WD-40 and the like. And the objective of all this is to adjust your pedal to suit your body, rather than trying to muscle it out, getting your muscles burning and working with steep ankle angles and unsustainable positions in your drumming. It's about drumming for life, so tweaking up the hardware to suit you allows you to play for decades, and you then don't end up with worn out body parts. Wear the drum parts out, sure, but not your body. Rightio, just a quick reminder before I go, like, subscribe, comment and share, and I'll just show you some shots of these pedals. There's the modified pedal with the raised heel plate on a base plate. This pedal is sitting on a 1/4 inch 6mm aluminium slab. It's fixed to that. That allows me to remount the pedal, the return spring, with that super long active length. Makes a huge difference. Really suits the way I play. The other mod is the grub screw in the hoop clamp and the longer chain. I've also created a little bit of rotation where the chain grips, clamps, wraps around the nose of the pedal board. So a couple of other angles. That's pretty clear there with the height of the heel, the long spring active length, and you can just see that chain. It's not hugely longer because of the way it's set up. It tends to wrap the nose a little more, but it's much more efficient. The standard pedal, there's the standard issue unit. Notice how ballistically different it is. Radically different. So these mods, you can't buy them at the drum shop, but they are doable. A bit of eBay searching and a bit of mechanical nous, and really helps for lifelong drumming. So that's it for me, but please leave a review once you've finished liking and subscribing and commenting. Google pivots off Google reviews, and I've been remiss over the years with my students. So this is a reminder for you and for me to please leave a review on Google. Scan that QR code with your device or screenshot it and use Google Lens to go to my Google business listing to leave a review. If you want to know more about what I've done here with my pedals and where to get those number 35 chains or that 90 weight gear oil, or to figure out how to mount your pedal on a base plate, book in. Nothing to lose, everything to gain. No card details or cash for face-to-face people. Online or face-to-face, first lesson is free. Nada, zilch, Nothing to lose, everything to gain. I hope to see you soon. I'll be providing more info in depth on the mods later on to give you a little more detail about where those mods came from and why. But for now, I'm going to say see you later and see you in the next video. Bye.